A man from Springfield will serve more than 10 years in federal prison after admitting that he illegally had several guns. Springfield police were called to Ricky Braden's home in August of 2022 after witnesses reported that he pointed a pistol at them, then at his wife, and fired a shot into the ground. Investigators found multiple loaded handguns, a stolen revolver, and an AR-15 style rifle. Braden had previous felony convictions. In October of 2023, we reported that Braden assaulted his wife and put her in the trunk of his car. She was later found safe.